India is building the world's most ambitious renewable energy program. We realize that with renewables, there's a problem of intermittency that sort of comes into picture. The consumption and the production don't align essentially with the creation of the of essentially the duck curve.
People don't talk about another type of energy storage here, which is seasonal energy storage. We look at times above 15 hours all the way to few months of storage today, because the energy mix that we have renewable is still less than 15%. We are building zinc-air batteries. We have a different type of architecture that you never saw before in batteries. When we say batteries, there's a single cell which does charging and discharging. What we are doing is we have decoupled the charging and discharging into two physically different systems.
So this is like the round trip efficiency.
Efficiency is one parameter that will be accounted in this calculation. There are new technologies like vanadium redox flow battery will come into play. Now, if you store energy in the form of zinc plate, that will be 6,000 watt per liter.
Storage unit energy density is highest for your form of battery. What does the operation workflow look like for you? And who collects the spent ZNO value? And is that a logistics business that you're also building on the side, or are you licensing the technology?
Logistics plays a huge role here because I am literally moving tons of material from one place to another place.
How do you think this will scale, because you're comparing against lithium-ion? India is building the world's most ambitious renewable energy program. But here's the problem that nobody talks about loudly enough. Almost every battery that will store that energy comes from China. Today's guest is Akhil. He's the co-founder of Sthyr Energy and a Chennai-based deep tech startup that spent 5 years inside IIT Madras asking whether zinc, a metal India actually produces, could be the answer to long-duration energy storage problem. This conversation matters because we're not just talking about a battery company. We're talking about whether India's energy transition is truly sovereign, or whether we've simply swapped dependence on Russia, the mistake Germany made, for dependence on Chinese cells. Akhil, welcome to the Bottom Line podcast.
Thank you, Drishti, for having me here.
So we'll get started. And the first question that I had, and just to set context to the audience, right? Because LDES is again a sector that is within a larger sector of energy. And it's like a problem of a problem of a problem. Not a lot of people have context to that. Right. And here's the framework that I've developed in my head. Correct me if I'm wrong. Electricity was again a form of energy. We had excessive dependence on fossil fuels, which we tried to sort of reduce, which is why we started looking at renewables as a sources of energy production. When we switched to renewables, we realized renewables, the most common alternative which all of us jumped to was solar, wind, right? And they had the infrastructure in place. And once we did that, we realized that with renewables, there's a problem of intermittency that sort of comes into picture, because the consumption and the production don't align. And what happened then is we realized that we need improvements in storage, which is the BESS sector, which came into picture. Firstly, is our understanding correct? Secondly, would you like to sort of paint the picture?
No problem. Yeah. So you gave a bit of good introduction. What I will do is I will go little bit deep.
Yes.
And really give what exactly the long duration means, and then where does it really come. You started with the duck curve, right? So is duck curve really the problem, or is there something else that is going to come up, right? So for that, you need to understand what is the energy mix to start off with. Energy mix means what are the sources we are getting energy from today. So I'll take India as a case to start off with. Let's say the majority of the energy is coming from coal, right? Thermal power plants. And then on top of that, we are adding solar and wind as renewable energy source. Of course, we have oil generators and we have nuclear power, but they're minor as of now. And just to give some numbers, today people talk about around 500 plus gigawatt or of gigawatt of solar expectation, right? So it's not just solar, total renewable installation capacity of 500 gigawatt by 2030. That's the expectation that India is having. And today we have 500 plus gigawatt of thermal power plant operating, right? And where are we now in terms of renewable? Around 200 to 250 gigawatt of installation, total solar plus wind. Now, when I talk about energy mix, how much energy we are generating from these two installations, majority, I mean, almost 90 85 to 90% of the energy is actually coming from coal itself or fossil fuels today. And fossil fuels are not intermittent. You can turn off the plant or turn on the plant anytime you want, right? And solar and wind are not like that. You have to take the energy whenever they are generating. And we need to keep one number in mind, that gigawatt that I'm talking about, 200 to 250 gigawatt of installation, how much energy it will actually give. So it's like 25% of the time is being operated. So it is called capacity utilization factor. So which means in a day, if you take 24 hours, roughly 25% of that time, or maybe 8 hours in a day, is what the solar or wind will be generating energy for us, right? So which means if you consider 250 gigawatt, only one fourth of that, like 250 into 0.25 gigawatt hour of energy is what is being generated today per day. So that turns out to around 15% of energy that we are consuming today, roughly, is generated by solar and wind. Now coming to Ducker, why this is coming essentially? So we know solar is generated during the daytime, no? Morning it will start, and then afternoon it will peak and then come down in the evening. So India, most of the state governments and users have this rule that because we are installing solar, you have to ensure that you are utilizing that energy more than from coal, right? So we have a demand curve, like essentially demand will be flat, pretty much flat, with two peaks in a day. The two peaks will be one in the morning time and one in the evening time. So morning, when people start waking up and they start turning off and use all their appliances, the peak demand peak reaches, and again in the evening when people are going to start using their home appliances and all. But otherwise, in the remaining times, it will pretty much remain flat. Now map that with the solar energy that you are generating. Solar will be starting at maybe morning 7 8, like that, and we want to use more solar, so they start using more solar and then start turning off the thermal power plants. So that's why you see thermal power plants will go down from the morning, and solar will rise to match the demand. And evening comes, what happens? Again, the demand will start rising slowly, but at the same time, solar will go down. When solar is going down, you have to ramp up the power plants to meet the demand. So that's where you will see that duck curve, right? So today, what we are doing to avoid this problem or tackle this problem is we are attaching energy storage along with solar. Now that energy storage will take care of the morning 2 hours of peak and evening 2 hours of peak. Essentially, uh, they want to reduce the load on the thermal power plants during these two periods. And so that they call it as peak shifting, right? Look at the time that we need energy storage here. Morning 2 hours roughly and evening 2 hours. Maybe it is increasing to total of 6 to 7 hours a day maximum, right? So if you have to put energy storage in baskets, you have to look at the time of storage, how much time you're storing and how much time you're dispatching the energy, right? So anywhere you're storing energy less than 8 hours, that is called short duration energy storage, right? And if you go above 8 hours and anywhere up to few months, that is called long duration energy storage. And people don't talk about another type of energy storage here, which is seasonal energy storage, because that's not a need of the hour in India today. So for, just to give or clarify the definitions that you're looking in the internet, for people, when they say long duration energy storage, it is up to 15 hours today.
What?
Right? And is this immediate need of the hour? Still no, but people are anticipating in next 2 years we will start needing more than 8 hours of storage. That's why all these discussions are coming up. So again, this duck curve is the initial problem. It will start deepening, and then you have to balance that.
Yeah.
Right. So now in this, I hope this gave you a bigger picture of what energy storage means and what short duration and long duration energy storage means, and where do we come in. So we build zinc-air batteries, especially for longer durations of storage as well as dispatch. And we look at times above 15 hours all the way to few months of storage. So when I say few months, that's where I'm talking about seasonal energy storage. So we are only talking about variations in a day, right? Today.
Yeah.
What about variations in the seasons? Right? Which we are not facing yet today, because the energy mix that we have renewable is still less than 15%. Now imagine a case where, Europe. in Germany or Netherlands or any Nordic countries, what happens is their summers they will see 20 hours of sun a day, right? And their winters maybe that 20 hours will squeeze to almost 4 hours a day. So imagine how much variation they will have between summer and winter, right? And even in India today, wind energy is generated only 6 months a year. So straight 6 months energy will be generated at its peak, but the remaining 6 months there won't be wind. It's a seasonal and timing related issue. So 6 months it will generate, 6 months it won't generate. So that's a seasonal problem. How do we deal with that? It's not daily issue, right? So imagine even in India, in summers solar will generate a lot of energy, and then in winters or rainy season, you will see roughly continuously 7 days or 10 days of complete clouds, right? So this is the seasonal storage, seasonal variation we are talking about. Now when this will become a big problem in India, when this today's 15% of renewable energy increase to almost, it just needs to cross 30%, and then you will start seeing that coal power plants, whatever the balance they are doing today, they won't be able to do once the mix becomes 30%, right? So that's when we come into play. So how do we do that? Simply, as I said, we are building zinc-air batteries. We store zinc energy in the form of zinc. So we have a different type of architecture that you never saw before in batteries. So when we say batteries, there's a single cell which does charging and discharging. What we are doing is we have decoupled the charging and discharging into two physically different systems. We have one system which does only charging and one system which does only discharging, right? And the material which is zinc and zinc oxide will move between these two systems. Now, how does that help us? Imagine 6 months of excess generation. It can be summer where solar is generating extra, or it can be a high wind season where wind is generating extra. During that time, what we can do is we can start with zinc oxide. Zinc oxide is the starting material where we feed into the recharging station, and we'll convert that into zinc metal using the excess energy that is being generated. So that is charging for us. And we store these zinc plates, which is the energy for us now. And then we can use it in the next season when you want energy, when the renewable energy is not being generated. We can simply insert these zinc plates into the battery, and it will start giving you energy back, right? So that's how we shift energy from one season to another season using zinc plates, right? And then this might raise a question: why not other batteries like lithium or some other new technologies like vanadium is not able to do that? So simple answer is one, self discharge. Just imagine your mobile phone, it is having a lithium battery today. You charge it and leave it. You don't use it. Come after one week. Is it going to be 100% charge? No.
No,
It's going to reduce. It's going to reduce. And it's not just the reduction. If you leave it for longer time without discharging, you might even lose the capacity permanently, right? So technically, this is one reason, but there is economics also coming into play, right? So if you want to provide affordable energy storage, I'm not going to calculations, but I will just give you the crisp of it. If you do charging and discharging of lithium battery 2 times a day, only then it is going to be economically feasible. If you are not going to do it, let's say you are going to do one time charge and discharge a day, then whatever is the price, it is going to double. And if you are going to do once in 2 days, then it's going to be more than triple, which will go way beyond the affordable limit.
Got it. So this is like the round trip efficiency. If I'm not wrong, is that the
Round
correct
trip efficiency is one parameter that will be accounted in this calculation. Yes. And of course, the capex is there, operation cost is there, and round trip efficiency. You're right. Now, if let's say you're going above 8 hours, which is like 8 hours is roughly 2 times charge and discharge in a day for lithium battery. If you're going more than 8 hours, that is not sufficient, because once you discharge the battery completely, again you need time to charge it. So you cannot do more than that. So that's when there are new technologies like vanadium redox flow battery will come into play. And for them it's more like they have tanks of active material, vanadium active material, large tanks. They say, okay, if I want to increase the amount of storage, I can just increase the tank size.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, isn't that the flow battery system essentially? So this is the flow battery system that you're referring.
Yes, correct.
And one correction, one I want assistance is there are ion batteries, like for instance lithium-ion batteries, zinc-ion batteries, and then there
Yes.
are flow battery architectures.
Correct.
right? Which are different architecturally. Can you take us through the difference of the two? Because then it will help map out, okay, this is where Sthyr is lying.
Great. That's a really good question. You talked about two. One is iron air battery and vanadium redox flow battery. Vanadium redox flow battery and iron both comes under flow systems.
Flow systems, correct.
There will be some electrolyte flow or active material flow involved. And if you talk about iron air battery,
Hmm.
there's a company called Form Energy who is talking about large scale deployments these days.
They are for iron air, right? They're working on iron air.
Iron air battery, correct.
Correct. Yes.
The fundamental structural difference from between us, like, we both come under a form and we are basically working on metal air class of batteries.
Yes.
They are working on iron, we are working on zinc, but the architecture itself is going to be very different. Their architecture is they have a single battery where we do both charging and discharging,
Got it.
right? The moment you do charging and discharging in a single cell, storage for seasons will be out of question,
Okay.
right? So it's because for two reasons. One, imagine you are storing lot of, like, every day you are generating lot of energy and you are storing it in the form of iron, imagine. But that iron is within the battery now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So to store all that energy within the battery, the amount of the battery size will be huge.
Which is essentially the same problem that came with silicon when Tesla was trying to replace the same thing with silicon because it will expand in size.
That's a very different problem. So let me give bit more details here.
Yes.
So there are like two types of batteries. One is rechargeable battery and the one which I'm talking about where charging and discharging are decoupled, right? So here what happens is the active material, if it is lithium battery, active material is lithium. If it is
Hmm.
iron air battery, active material is iron. But you have a closed cell where the active material is stored within the cell, right? So how much energy you are storing is directly proportional to how much active material you have to load, right? Now, if the active material is within the cell, more energy means more number of cells.
So you've restricted the energy that you can store because of the size of the cell, which is solved by the flow state architecture, which you can increase the size of the tank.
Exactly, exactly. So now, same architecture, you imagine vanadium redox flow battery. They have active material in the tank. It's a liquid, vanadium in the form of a liquid state. And they talk about increasing the tank size, which is more volume of active material, more energy, right? Now, in these two cases, what happens is if you want to store more amount of energy for longer time, the active material required or the size of the battery or the size of the tanks required will be enormous, right? Which means more land, more capex sitting idle for months. So how do we deal with that? So they talk about 15 hours of storage and then after that they have to discharge, right? You cannot store it and then keep it for months just like that. Same problem comes, I told you, right? Like in lithium battery, you do 2 times charging and discharging per day. Only then it is economical. Otherwise, your asset is just sitting idle. It's not
Right.
giving you energy,
Okay.
right? So that is the problem with rechargeable batteries. What we do is we don't store energy within the battery. As I said,
Okay.
charging and discharging are decoupled,
Hmm.
and the active material for me is zinc. So I will, my system, let's say my recharging system is there. I will design it for some power. If you don't understand, please ask me.
Yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
I will design it for power. Let's say I have 1 gigawatt installation of solar, right? And it is at any point, let's say 0.5 gigawatt of excess energy is at a peak time. Let's say 0.5 gigawatt is being generated as excess. Then I will design my recharging unit for that 0.5 kilowatt. Sorry, megawatt. Sorry, I said gigawatt. So 0.5 gigawatt I will design for the system. So that system will remain, the size is not going to be changed now.
Okay.
It's just material in and material out.
Okay.
Zinc oxide will be in and then it will take the excess energy, convert into zinc, and that zinc metal will come out,
Hmm.
right? So my battery itself or a recharging unit size itself is not changing irrespective of how much energy I'm storing at any point of time,
Got it.
right? Now what is changing? I'm stacking the zinc plates now. I'm
Okay.
generating more and more zinc. I'm
Hmm.
stacking the zinc plates and I can store it for longer time without any loss of energy. And when I want energy back, again I will have zinc air battery into which I can keep inserting this zinc plates, which will give the energy back.
Okay.
So my system size is not changing, irrespective of how much energy I'm storing. It is just the zinc I'm stacking up during this time. Now, you might say, okay, zinc is also there, it will also occupy some space. That's where one number comes into play, which is energy density. Energy density of storage. So per unit volume, how much energy you're storing, right? Compared to, I will give rough numbers. It might be some plus or minus, but if it is lithium battery, people talk about anywhere in between 200 to 300 watt hour per liter, right? And if it is vanadium rate of flow, the flow batteries that you're talking about, it will be hardly 30 to 40 watt hour per liter, which is like compared to lithium, it will be almost 10 times less easily.
Yeah.
Right? Same is the case with iron ore battery. Iron is also going to be 10 times less. So we can put an average of 40 watt hour per liter, right? Now, if you store energy in the form of zinc plate, that will be 6,000 watt hour per liter,
Okay.
right? So, which is compared to lithium battery, at least it is going to be 20 times more, 20 to 25 times more. And compared to vanadium or iron ore battery, it is going to be 100 times more, right?
Okay.
So, you are for storing the same amount of energy, the amount of space required will be 100 times lesser because I'm storing only active material. And so that's where the innovation happens. So how do you ensure that you store the plates out? How do you take the plates out and store it? And then again, when you want, how do you insert it back into the battery and get the energy out? So that's where our innovation lies in. So I hope that explains how we are trying to shift the energy from one season to another season.
No, 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 absolutely. That is actually very helpful because it helps us completely understand what was the problem that you're trying to solve. And I'm assuming your moat somewhere lies in the energy density, like you mentioned,
Yes.
for storage space.
Yes.
For storage unit, energy density is highest for your form of battery. But
Correct.
like for instance, okay,
So
but I would like to understand that this is a very mechanical process, right? And there are certain costs that get added. For instance, like your system is mechanically rechargeable, but and you replace the zinc plates physically rather than recharging electricity in place.
correct.
But at grid scale, when you're talking about, does that like what does the operation workflow look like for you, and who collects the spent ZNO, who runs the recharging unit, which is ZRU, and is that a logistics building also, like business that you're also building on the side, or are you licensing the technology?
You're right on the spot. So yes, logistics plays a huge role here because I'm literally moving tons of material from one place to another place, right? But uh, is it a problem or is it a boon for us? So just to answer that, I will give you a case scenario here, right? So think about a situation today. What's happening is what kind of industries are trying to move to 100% renewable energy? Industries mostly, right? More than the residential areas. Industries are putting more interest and effort into reaching 100% RE by 2045 maybe. Some people say even by 2040 they want to reach. So what do they do in that case? So to run their factories, they install solar or wind farms somewhere where land is available. Imagine that these farms are 100 kilometers away from their factory where they have to use the energy. Now they are facing this problem that they have mandate that okay, today energy mix I told you as a whole country it is 15% I told you, right? But they have to increase their energy mix more than 50%. So their demand is again flat. When energy is being generated or the peak energy is being generated by solar and wind, they cannot use it on the spot, right? And this is sitting somewhere like 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers away from their factory, the solar and wind farms. So now what for problems they are facing, there is a concept called banking. I don't know if you heard about this concept called banking. What does that mean? So now there is grid operator, right? The grid, the transmission line operators and all. And there is like planners, there is like planning involved, and then who will tell which how much energy goes where, all those things. So what they said is, okay, you put the energy whenever generating into the grid, but you don't have to use it now. You don't have to use it immediately. I will give you a time gap. You can use it after 1 hour. You can use it after 2 hours, right? And you pay the same price. You know that the electricity exchange price is varying in a day. So what these guys are doing in the daytime when the energy price is less, they will put the solar energy into grid, but because that's when it is being generated. But the factories need more energy in the evening when the prices are high, and that's when these guys start using from the grid at the same price, but grid is losing, right? Because you put the energy at lesser price, but you're taking when it is at higher price. But you say, okay, my price, whatever I am selling you, you have to give it to me at the same price, but in
Yeah.
the peak hour.
Okay.
So who is losing here? Grid operators are losing.
Yeah. But which is why aren't grid operators perennially in debt? Like, aren't most grid operators mostly in debt because of again
Yeah,
such a
yeah, exactly. Now this is an added problem to them, right? So now what they did is like in the last 1 year, they started reducing the time, the banking time. Instead of using after 2 hours, I will let you use in the next 15 minutes. You
okay.
have to use it within next 15 minutes. And people also estimate that that banking time come down to 1 minute also.
Okay.
So, which means if you put the energy into the grid and if you cannot use it in next 15 minutes or 1 minute, then you're going to lose it, right? And you have to buy the when you want, you have to buy it at the regular exchange price. So then what's the point? It's and now is it easy that whenever I'm generating excess, I dump it into the grid and take whenever I want and whatever the price it is? Is that easy? It's not going to be easy. It's and then second problem comes in, which is called congestion, grid congestion, right? What grid congestion means, this you imagine a traffic. You have a narrow road in Bangalore, for example, and peak hours, morning office hours and evening office hours, more people will come in and then roads will get blocked, right? It's like road traffic congestion. Same is the kind of problem grid line also will face. There is a demand. You cannot put more energy than what is there for the demand. Grid cannot handle that excess energy. Grid is not meant to store, it is meant to transmit, right? Then obviously, if no one is going to use in the next 15 minutes, they are not going to take the energy in the first place. So you have to shut off your solar. So now you got a bigger picture, right? How the transmission works and the generation and usage times vary within a day. This is where again we come in. What we do, the charging unit will sit in the solar site or wind site where you generate the zinc plates there in that location. So instead of see, grid is not ready to take your energy at that moment, right? If you are not going to use it, then what we should do? You don't put it in the grid. Instead, you put it in the charging station, generate zinc in that location, and you can actually physically transport the zinc here, right? And you will have the battery at your factory location, and you can insert the battery zinc plates into the battery and then get the energy out at your location. So, which means essentially you are bypassing the grid completely. You don't have to worry about the banking time. You don't have to worry about the variations in the time, variations in the electricity prices and all. No? So you generate when the price is less, but you use it when the grid prices are low. Grid prices are high. You use this excess energy there.
God. But hmm,
So one, this is to say why the physical movement of material is important. Now comes the cost and the logistics involved. So simply put, uh, instead of using grid lines to transfer your energy, if you use a truck to transport this material, it is going to cost pretty much same or slightly less for the operator or for the user. So logistics cost is not going to be a big deal because either you pay to grid or you pay to the transportation. So that's not going to be a big deal. Now, at this at the site of usage, what we will be doing is, of course, this is going to be huge batteries, right? Manually, no one is going to. We cannot keep someone to manually keep replacing all these things. So that's where we are building automation, right? So battery comes with a automation system integrated with that. All we need to do is these plates. Like imagine there will be customized trucks. The way today we have petrol and diesel coming in customized tankers in the trucks, right? So these are designed only for that transportation of only diesel and petrol, not for anything else. Similarly, we will be designing racks or stacks in which the zinc plates will be inserted and transported, and you just have to take the rack and put in a designated location. And automation will know, okay, whenever I need a zinc plate, I just have to come to this location, pick the zinc plates and go and insert. So manually, all we need to do is fill the rack. Everything else from there will be taken care by automation. So that's what we built.
so this I think it solves a lot of problem and it's one of the most prominent problems for a lot of people. but
Yeah.
then it raises another scale problem, right? And of course, another problem that I foresee is the logistics issue, right? For some, and this system might only be workable for institutions, companies which have their solar units very close, or at least in a distance decent enough for it to be traversed by a freight or
Yeah.
logistics company. So how do you think that will solve? Because doesn't that restrict your market of what all can be implemented for which all customers? Because firstly, you'll have to cut them basis, okay, how close is their generation unit or any form, whichever, wind, solar, whatever method they're using. How far is that
Yeah.
from where you set up a battery system?
Yeah. That's valid question. So of course, I gave an example that it is going to be 100 kilometers away, right? So it they can plan when they are actually going to use this solution. They can plan where the uh, recharging site is going to be and how far they can transfer the energy. So it's all about planning, but it is set short term. Like imagine today that company have its own solar farm and it has to take only that energy. But tomorrow, it's again, if the solar and wind are going to be installed in scale throughout the country, then it can become a zinc market where you don't have to rely on your own energy, which is, let's say, white 100 maybe some other state itself. You have solar farm in some other state. You cannot just transport the zinc here. But in that case, what we can do is it can be a zinc market where you sell the zinc plates there and then you get it in this state. So that's going to be like, yes, it's going to be complex and we have to work it out as it scale. But today, what we are looking at is, any technology you cannot start with a highly decentralized location. You have to start with somewhere it is workable. So we are working with a few companies um, as of now. So what they said is, look, this diesel generators. Even forget about the factories and all, right? Factories need like megawatt of power requirements, and we are not building megawatt scale batteries yet. But people are talking about diesel generators, right? So imagine two different scenarios. One within India, like within the mainland, there are a lot of places where electricity is not available 24/7, right? And if some critical operations are going on in such areas, they will be relying on diesel generators as backup. Now, imagine if they are operating more than 6 hours to 10 hours of DG, their costs are going to go up. In such cases, in fact, there are places where there is no grid connectivity at all and they run their assets 24/7 on DG,
Oh.
right? And have you ever been to Andaman Nicobar or Lakshadweep Islands?
No, personally, I had no not heard it.
Or for that matter, there are a lot of islands in Asia, like Philippine Islands or Caribbean Islands. Do you think they have grid connected to those islands? Of
No.
course,
So
no.
how does that work?
It's like, do they have power plants in the island? No.
No, yeah, of course not.
And they're decoupled from or disconnected from the mainland. You cannot lay
Uh,
electricity
of
lines,
course.
cables to
Yeah,
that
yeah,
location. Then how are they powering their hotels or all this tourism market?
yeah.
Purely with diesel,
Mm.
diesel generators. In fact, today what's happening is diesel is shipped from Chennai to Andaman Nicobar Islands, and then there they will run diesel generators 24/7 to power the island.
Okay. Mm.
Now, burning diesel 24/7, imagine how much
Mm.
CO2 emissions will be there.
Mm.
And it's costly affair also for them.
Okay. Got Of
Right?
course.
So, there are such cases where people are ready to do this transportation. They're already doing diesel now. Doesn't matter how far it is and how difficult terrain it is. People are already doing diesel transportation. Now, replacing their so how is diesel transported today? Through trucks. So I just have to replace a tanker with different kind of stack
Yeah.
where I put the zinc instead of diesel, and they're happy to do that. Their logistics are already there. What they look at now is if I go from um, diesel to zinc,
Mm.
what is going to be my cost, right? So there's a number or term called LCOE, levelized cost of energy,
Correct.
right? So today, if you operate 24/7 DG, the fuel cost itself per unit will be 20 plus rupees, 20 to 25 rupees
Mm.
plus logistics cost. And then capex, maintenance, and all, it will go above 35 rupees.
Hmm.
right? So if we can do the same job and then give them at much lesser price, instead of 35 plus rupees, I can go only at 20 rupees. Then I'm already in the game.
But
Yes.
how do you think this will scale? Because when you're comparing against lithium-ion, which has a much lower LCOE, and of course, and given how the unit economics are working out, right? How will you compare against that? If you're looking at large scale grid operation.
Yeah. So yes, today we are slightly costlier, like our LCOs are slightly higher than lithium batteries, but it's purely on case by case scenario. Which case we are higher than lithium and which case we are lower than lithium. So you have to look at that situation. As I said, short duration energy storage, still lithium is going to be the best one. And in fact, people are bringing down cost significantly day by day of lithium battery. So we don't see ourselves going into short duration energy storage. But if you go to above 15 hours, again, as I said, it's not going to be it's not need of the 2 years, 3 years down the line, as the solar and wind are actually being installed more and more. And if India reaches the target of 500 gigawatt by 2030, then this need is going to come up. And if I have to do it in scale, which is like grid scale, utility scale, minimum megawatt batteries are required. I cannot do it in kilowatt, right? So even as a company, I will take at least 3 years more to really reach that scale, right? Now, you ask like, what is the market? Am I consolidated to only specific locations or islands? No, that is only going to be my beachhead, which is the need of the hour, right? The way I look at it is 5 years down the line, we will be more of a complementary to lithium battery and other types of batteries, where short duration will be taken care by other technologies and seasonal storage shifting will be done by us. That's how we envision future. We are not going to be competitors or we are not going to replace lithium batteries where they are today. But the applications which I told you now, it might be scattered today. Diesel generators are there everywhere, but I cannot, if the ecosystem is not there, where today, wherever you are, you can get diesel. But I cannot supply, as you said, zinc is generated somewhere and then used somewhere, and transportation becomes a problem. Unless I have supply of zinc everywhere in the country, I am not going to go and touch diesel generators in cities and all, right? So this is only a starting point for me. Where the remote locations are there, it's easy for me to go and prove myself. But as the scale increase, and so we are also working with multiple companies just for the ecosystem, building ecosystem. For example, we are talking to Hindustan Zinc. It's not officially out yet, or we are still in the discussion phase. What we are exploring here is they are already good in making zinc plates,
Yeah, 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 of course.
and they have this huge distribution network.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
what we are looking at is mutually looking at is we will build the tech. Of course, they also have the tech, but we have to do a little bit of customization, and then they can be an operator in some locations,
Mm.
right? And we also can operate. So the business model is still evolving. It's not
Yeah.
finalized yet. But is it going to be a situation where we have recharging units wherever the solar is coming? We have recharging units sitting there,
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
right? And
hmm.
imagine Chennai. I'm in Chennai. Whatever the solar farms are there in and around Chennai, I will have recharging units there,
Yeah,
and then I will supply the zinc generated in this location to the diesel, or wherever I am replacing DG within Chennai.
yeah.
I can supply zinc to these users,
Okay. And this
right?
will be in partnership with a third party.
It can be, yeah, yeah. So today, if you see how diesel and petrol are being distributed throughout the
Mm.
country, refineries are centralized. They are not there everywhere. Refineries are always centralized, and that's where you are making diesel and petrol. But you have all these distribution networks, and today, wherever every 5 kilometers you have a bunk, and you are able to get it. It took years, decades to really make this logistics and accessibility work, right, for the last end user. We also see that like it's going to take some time, but we will start with one specific location and then start spreading from there. In fact, if you see today, electric vehicles are also going through the same phase, right?
Yeah.
You sell electric vehicle, but if you don't have charging station, what will you do? So how these companies are working out? They say, okay, I will start with a city where the maximum number of vehicles are there, and I will install charging stations in these locations, and they can sell the EVs also in those locations only. And then
Got it.
from there they will start expanding. So it's a similar kind of distribution network that we are envisioning in future.
Got it. But one question that it leads me to is that you're positioning for a 15-hour essential storage, which means that you're explicitly not competing with LFP, which is your lithium-ion
No,
asset. And
no.
there is no government tender format or viability gap fund scheme and no established tariff structure. So you are building ahead of policy, but I want to understand that who will essentially end up paying you before the policy exists, right? Because government funds a lot of these, given the capex of cost of building in long duration. A lot of people are benefiting from the viability gap funding, etc., and the tenders and the PLIs. Because you are building outside the structure is not supporting you, at least government wise. So, how are you solving that? And who is essentially funding this?
So along with building the tech, we also try to push the policy on the other side.
Interesting.
Yeah, what you said is right. We are ahead of the need, and then until the need comes, all this support won't come. But this is a situation in the past. In fact, India, maybe common people may not see that coming up, but if you look at the government level, government is really pushing to build our own technologies in India, and they're also seeing now they started realizing the fact that you cannot start building a tech when the need comes. You have to anticipate it, say 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, this is going to happen. And you have to start building the tech from now so that by the time you already make the technology is matured and ready for the market. So government have actually realized it. And if you look at funding, you are talking about VGF and PLI maybe. Of course, we are not in that stage yet where, I start making batteries in scale. We are not in that stage yet. But government support, if you see, yes, it is there. First 5 years of our battery technology development is done with grants from IIT, grants from government and IIT Madras, right? So support is there definitely. And then on the other side, policy push is also happening parallelly. I have shared you one document which talks about LDES. This is something called Long Duration Energy Storage Council, and there is another thing called India Energy Storage Association, IESA. So these two associations or councils are actually pushing the government to look into the storage needs, and then they're trying to draft the policies to support these technologies, right? So if you see in the last 2-3 years, governments actually started putting this VGF for production linked incentive schemes for lithium-ion batteries because they see it is an immediate need, and that happened because 5 years down the line someone started pushing the policy. So now similarly people are pushing for long duration energy technologies worldwide. If you see, it is already huge, and Europe is already having a lot of big policies supporting these technologies, new technologies. US is already having policies to support technologies which can do 15 hours of storage and discharge. In India, yes, it is in line. It's not there outside yet officially, but people are trying to push it. So you will start seeing in next 1 to 2 years.
Hopefully, that really gives us a lot of hope, right? Because I think this is across domains that I'm seeing a lot of policy push, and this is especially if I'm drawing a parallel here, not relevant. But I've spoken to a lot of founders in defense, right?
Yes.
And I think we're seeing a similar turnaround in defense where now we're trying to be, I wouldn't say opportunistic in a way, but we're trying to sort of navigate and predict the demands and the needs early. Given how things have moved geopolitically, they've completely transformed the defense landscape, at least in terms of procurement. So a lot of bunch of new startups are popping up there. I'm hoping to see similar traction in LDS. But that brings me to one more question, and I don't know. I mean, just something out there. So I read about this company called Logman, right?
Yeah.
And they were doing aluminium air, and they had raised about 400 crores. And what they realized is that the chemistry was working. The failure mode wasn't just chemistry, right? It was a gap between like lab performance and grid scale durability. Uh, and which is what we end up seeing, right? Once the scale
Yes.
comes, then a lot of the frameworks that we made, a lot of testing, etc., sort of falls flat.
Yes.
Typical of all R&D heavy industries. But how do you think how do you think Sthyr sits on the right side of uh, history essentially?
Great. Logman is a good example to take. See, I have been following Logman since 2018, and that was the first time they claimed they ran a car with aluminum battery. And then later, other claims came that They're going to do stationary storage with aluminum batteries also. But from day one, since I started, I didn't look at it like a common man, because I myself was building tech. So instead of just looking at the claims, I looked from the science or fundamental point of view. Aluminum is having huge great problems fundamentally. In fact, I don't know if you have followed this, even IOCL invested a lot in a company called Finergy, and that was also aluminum battery. So fundamentally, why people go behind aluminum is aluminum air batteries is because of its energy density again, purely because of energy density. Where the problem comes is, see, just think about this. I told you 6,000 watt hour per liter of storage in zinc, right? If you compare that number for aluminum, it is 3 times higher. Exciting, right? Then
Yeah.
why anyone should not work on aluminum battery? The problem comes with round trip efficiency, right? So you discharge aluminum, you're generating aluminum oxide, but you have to convert it back to again.
Mm,
That's a charging process. So what Log9 or for that matter Synergy, all these guys claimed is I will simply go to Hindustan Zinc, like it's under Vedanta, so Hindalco,
yeah.
where they claim that okay, Hindalco is already having a process to convert bauxite to aluminum. Bauxite is aluminum oxide.
Yeah.
So the discharge product of aluminum batteries, aluminum oxide.
Mm,
So they said we
got it.
don't have to work on it. Already process is there. We'll just give it to them, and then they will recycle and give it back to us.
Mm,
But what they didn't realize it is highly energy intensive process. That the amount of energy you put in to convert 1 kg of bauxite back to aluminum,
mm,
and how much energy it will give back, it's not matching. So that's why we had to build our own recharging system today.
mm,
Right.
mm.
And we are still working on improving the efficiency. Today we are at 40+% efficiency of this charging and discharging. The reason why I say we don't make sense when we look at less than 8 hours of storage is because of round trip efficiency.
So
Lithium batteries are around 90%.
is there a duration? I don't know if you've run this math, but like internally, just for just for the
Mhm.
sake of it, is
Yes.
there a duration which is say sub 100 hours, 50 hours, 200 hours, where your LCOE calculation run better than lithium ion?
Uh,
Or
I told you, right? That duration is 15 plus. 15 plus, see, I will give you two different ways of looking at it. One, whatever the price we are at today, so we are at two digit, like less than 20 rupees. And lithium, if you do 2 cycles of charge discharge a day, they claim around 5 to 6 rupees. And 5 to 6 rupees is economically making sense in the grid scale. And for me, if I have to start making sense in grid level, I also have to reach single digit numbers, right? So two things. If a lithium ion batteries are not charged and discharged 2 times a day, they also will go to 2 digit numbers,
okay.
right? Now, if it is like above 15 hours, above 20 hours, that's why they don't make sense in that time region. And that is one thing. Either they come to my area, which is above 20 hours, and then they start not making sense compared to us.
Yeah, of course. Because
Right.
if it's 15 plus, then obviously you're the clear winner.
Yeah.
Uh, in that space, yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing. But at the same time, we are not as matured as lithium battery. Lithium batteries, if you see 20 years, 30 years ago, they are like $1,000 per kilowatt hour. Today, they are talking about $80 to $100 per kilowatt hour. So they came down from 1,000 to 80 today, and it took 15 years for them to reach this point, right? And we are working for last 5 years and 5 6 years, and not in scale, manufacturing in scale. So obviously, it's a immature tech where you cannot expect it to be cost competitive right away. So what we envision is like in 5 years down the line, we also are trying to bring down the cost to single digit number.
Mm. So three, four things, and when we're building a product, right, especially, and it's very important for at least the laymen like us who have read about the industry, right, but still don't know how to plot these things in our head, right? Because when somebody tells me, "Oh, this is the energy density versus the LCOE versus the LCOS versus the RT," it's very hard for me to sort of plot it in my head because I don't have the accesses correctly. So,
Yes.
can you lay down the primary metrics within the industry? And And I'm assuming a lot of them are orthogonally sort of connected, like energy density is inversely proportionate to something, which is inversely going to tie something. So there's a sweet spot somewhere in the middle for all of that. But just to help us understand these metrics in our head, can you give us a simple lightscape or a mind map or a way of thinking about
Honestly, even I struggle today
it?
to really put these metrics in one plot and convince people. It's very difficult, honestly,
Yeah.
because it's not. I cannot convince people with one parameter.
Yeah. Because then this becomes a data problem, right? Remember, like how people just skew data. So they'll say, okay, LCOE wise is performing better, but then you don't look at energy density, which essentially might be lower, or you don't look at RT, which might again be lower. So then
Safety is
it's
another parameter which cannot be quantified.
yeah, but then it's just very easy to then randomly pitch numbers and then not know that okay, which numbers are we supposed to look at?
So that's why I found a better way of talking to people in terms of, if I talk to people in energy storage sector, they come and ask me first question, how are you better than lithium battery? And I go, where do I start? So I start with saying, please tell me the application that you're looking at or use case that you're looking at. Then it will be easy for me to really pick a number. For example, I will tell you, if people come and ask me, hey, can you use it in EVs? Can you replace lithium batteries in um, electric vehicles? Because I claim that the 6,000 watt per liter, or even in battery level, I claim my battery energy density is high. Then first question they will come and ask, like, if you are already high energy density, why don't you go and put it in EVs? Good. Now that you are talking about EVs, the first problem is the power density. It's not energy density. You have to look into power density also. I will give more energy density, but I won't give as high power density as lithium battery. And people want speed in EVs. So it will be easy. Okay, the right way or right one parameter to say no is power density, right? But if you talk about an application like energy storage, right? Within energy storage, if someone say in short duration energy storage, which is less than 8 hours, if someone say, oh, if you're already good, why don't you come and replace lithium battery today? Then there the right metric is round trip efficiency, not just the energy density. The round trip efficiency starts making sense. Then I will say, hey, I can do that technically, but lithium battery have 90% efficiency. I have only 45% efficiency. So I'm losing more energy compared to lithium battery on a daily basis. So my costs are going to be high, little bit high. So that one parameter becomes handy, which is round trip efficiency. Now comes, okay, if you're talking about long duration energy storage, which is storing above 20 hours and above up to a few months, then comes what is the energy density. Again, the storage energy density and the safety and the cost ultimately that will lead. So then I can say, okay, can you be in a single digit number if you do only one cycle per 2 days?
Hmm.
They will understand. Okay, no, my costs are going to be high. But I will say, okay, I will just make zinc and I will stack it. I don't have to do any maintenance. There is no capex involved, and there is no safety hazards involved. So my LCOS, like cost of storing energy from one season to another season, is much cheaper than lithium battery. So there all these numbers come, like what is the self discharge, what is the energy density, what is the safety factor, can I transport it from one place to another place, all these factors come. Then I can say, okay, in because of all these parameters I am better than lithium battery. So yeah, so it's purely dependent on application that you're talking about.
Hmm.
Things will become easy in that sense.
Very, very informative, Akhil. Thank you so much for giving us this framework. I think I personally really needed it. Because I was losing my mind over the entire week with tracking multiple parameters across technology.
Yeah,
Thanks for doing this. I hope it will help a lot of people as well, right? Because we often end up reading random claims, but we forget to look at the specific use case and a sub-classification of it. Right? Where is it
yes,
falling in the landscape? And then thinking, okay, this is the right metric to look at for this case.
yeah, you have to look at the landscape and use case.
Got it. I think that's all from my end, Akhil. Thank you so much for doing this. I really, really hope this helps a lot of people. My goal is very simple, that you can only appreciate a technology or a technology once you know the workings of it, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
all the claims especially fall flat, like all the VC conversations, all the talks and seminars with college students will fall flat till the time we don't appreciate the technology and what is going on behind the scenes, right? what is making technology A novel from technology B, across what parameters, in what situations, across what use cases, which is the
Yep.
gap that we are trying to. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for the discussion.
Yeah.
I hope this podcast can educate a lot more people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it will. Thanks for building this novel technology. So I'm just going to stop recording.